They didn't ask my name, not once. They didn't ask why I was there, who I was waiting for, or whether I needed help. They looked at me, decided I didn't belong, and everything after that just followed naturally. Yeah, that happened. I was standing outside a restaurant in Crestwood Heights, one of those places with glass walls and soft lighting where people talk quietly and never look you in the eye. I got there early like I always do. Old habits die hard. When you spend most of your life being early prepared and careful, it sticks with you. I was waiting for my granddaughter Claire. She was inside with colleagues, some work dinner I didn't feel like attending. I told her I'd wait outside, enjoy the evening air, give her space. Simple enough, right? I wasn't pacing, I wasn't bothering anyone, I was just standing there, hands behind my back, watching cars roll up to the valet, watching people laugh a little too loud. And honestly, I kind of liked being invisible for a moment. After a lifetime of being watched, questioned, judged, anonymity felt peaceful. Then I noticed the patrol car across the street. You learn to notice those things. The way it idles a little too long. The way the officers inside stop talking when they look at you. I didn't think much of it at first. I've lived long enough to know when attention is coming, but I've also learned not to flinch before it arrives. They pulled up slow, doors opened, boots hit the pavement with that sound that tells you this isn't going to be friendly. "Sir," one of them said, voice already carrying that edge. "You can't stand here." I turned toward them calmly. "I'm waiting for my granddaughter," I said. "She's inside." The younger one smiled, not a real smile. We've had complaints, people feeling uncomfortable. I remember thinking uncomfortable with what? With me breathing, with me existing in a place they didn't picture someone like me standing. I asked, "This is a public sidewalk, isn't it?" That's when the tone changed. You know the moment. The second you stop being a person and start being a problem. The younger officer slapped the wallet right out of my hand. Cards and cash scattered across the ground. His partner stepped forward and planted his boot right on top of it like he was claiming territory. I didn't rush to pick it up, I didn't raise my voice, I just looked at them and said, "You're making a mistake." They laughed. One of them grabbed my arm and twisted it just enough to hurt, not enough to leave marks. They're good at that. Years of practice. I didn't resist. I've seen how that story ends. You resist and suddenly you're dangerous. Suddenly the report writes itself. That's when Claire ran up, breathless, furious, phone already in her hand. "That's my grandfather," she said. "Do you have any idea who you're touching?" They laughed again. One of them said something like, "Sure, he is the way people do when they think they're clever." The cuffs went on. Cold steel. Final sound. I looked at Claire and shook my head slightly. "Not yet. Let it happen." Inside the squad car, the city lights reflected off the windows like nothing had changed. People walked by, restaurants stayed busy, life went on. The officer driving glanced at me in the mirror and said, "You people always think you're special." I didn't answer. There was nothing to say to that. His partner added something about how a nice coat doesn't change who you are. I remember thinking how strange it is that people believe clothes give permission, that dignity is something you earn by dressing correctly or standing in the right places. I said quietly, "Enjoy this while it lasts." At the precinct, it was routine. Paperwork, coffee, jokes. They barely looked at me. Charges were tossed around like they didn't matter. Loitering, failure to comply, disorderly conduct. I was put in a holding cell like I'd been there 1,000 times before, like this was normal. I asked for my phone call. The sergeant rolled her eyes and said, "Call your lawyer." I didn't call a lawyer. I called Jonathan Pierce. When he answered, there was a pause. You don't forget a voice like his. "Where are you?" he asked. I told him. I told him what happened. I told him the names. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't exaggerate. I never do. When you tell the truth plainly, it tends to carry its own weight. He went quiet for a second, then said, "That ends tonight." I hung up and sat back down, and I waited. That's the thing people don't understand. Real power doesn't rush. It waits. It lets the mistake finish unfolding. And when it moves all at once. All. About 20 minutes later, the energy in the room shifted. You could feel it before you saw it. Conversations slowed. Someone straightened up. The front doors opened again, and this time everyone noticed. Claire walked in first, jaw tight, eyes sharp. Beside her was a man in a dark suit, calm in that way that makes people nervous. Assistant Federal Prosecutor Daniel Cross. When he spoke, he didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. "I'm here for Harold Bennett," he said. The sergeant blinked. "Who?" Cross looked at her like she'd just told him the sky was green. "A retired constitutional judge. You are unlawfully detaining him." That word, unlawfully, changed everything. Papers stopped rustling. Coffee cups froze midair. Suddenly I wasn't invisible anymore. They opened the cell. I stepped out, straightened my coat, thanked the officer who unlocked the door, The two arresting officers were brought in still wearing those same expressions until they saw me standing free, until they saw who I was standing next to. "You didn't even run his name," Cross said softly. No one argued. What could they say? The captain suspended them on the spot. Cross explained what came next. Internal affairs, federal review careers ending not with a bang, but with paperwork and silence. I watched the realization hit them. That hollow look when power evaporates. I didn't feel joy. I felt confirmation. Weeks later, I sat in a courtroom filled with cameras and quiet breathing. I told the story again the same way. No drama, no speeches, just facts. Where I stood, what they said, what they did. The jury listened. The verdict was guilty. Sentences followed. Prison time, fines, public disgrace. The kind of ending people like to call satisfying. But here's the part people don't always want to hear. That wasn't the end. It was the beginning. Investigations spread. Other names surfaced. Other departments got quiet. Systems that had been comfortable in the dark suddenly found themselves under bright lights. I didn't celebrate. I went home. I had dinner with my granddaughter. Life went on a little heavier, a little clearer, because this was never about revenge. It was about being seen, about what happens when someone they thought was nothing refuses to disappear quietly. So here's what I want to know. Was it justice or was it just overdue? Was it about race or power or the dangerous mix of both? And how many times have you seen something like this happen and thought that's just the way it is? Tell me what you think. Argue with me if you want. Share your